Hey y'all! Pokemon Red using only one Zapdos was shockingly good. So this week, we're gonna get really weird with it. I'm gonna try to beat Pokemon Red using only one Mew. As usual, the rules are we can only use Mew in battle, and I can't use any items in battle. By the way, if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and check out more of these videos on my channel. Mew is the secret second legendary psychic type from the original Pokemon Red and Blue. And I'm pretty excited to play with it today, considering how many hours I spent trying to get under that stupid truck near the SS Sand as a child. I never actually found one as a kid, but I remember when I was in high school busting out my old Game Boy and looking up on YouTube how to glitch Mew into the game. I have fond memories of catching that Mew and then soloing Pokemon Red with it during a road trip on college tours. Oh wow, I actually kind of forgot about that, so I guess I have been doing solo challenges for way longer than I realized. Well, as for the stats and moves, this Pokemon needs no introduction. Mew's got 100 base stats across the board, and it can learn every single move by TM in the game. Don't worry though, this isn't just gonna be a set up and sweep kind of video. Actually, I can't wait to get creative with this one. Who knows what's gonna happen? Alright. Time to get a move on. Let's do this. Off at Professor Oak's lab, I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Charmander with Mew so that our rival will pick Squirtle. Mew can learn any move in the game, so for once, this choice isn't really informed by type advantage. Instead, I just picked the bulkiest of the three. Plus, Blastoise will eventually know Blizzard, which has a chance to freeze, so I think it's the biggest threat. Now, Mew might be an ancient creature, but it has no trouble learning new moves. So I nickname ours Old Dog Mew Tricks. I guess I'm kind of the opposite, since at this point in my career, I will never stop making puns. Mew starts off with just the move Pound. Oddly humble beginnings for a Pokemon that can learn all the moves. Pound is a pretty weak move though, since even off of a 100 base attack, it takes a while to knock out the turtle. Even so, he never had a chance of winning. But then again, what do you expect when he's only got a single Pokemon? His team is the bare minimum, or as I like to call it, a skeleton Mew. Having beaten Bubs, I head through Viridian Forest and make my way to the Pewter City Gym. And along the way, I defeated all the available trainers since I figure we're going to need all the levels we can get. It's always like that when you only have normal moves at the beginning of the game and you have to fight Brock's Rocks. Anyways, along the way, Mew learned the move Transform. And it's the only other Pokemon that can learn this besides Ditto in this game. Oh wow, I guess that means Transform isn't even its signature moves, since Mew learns it in the same generation by level up also. Alright. Anyways, I'd love to use Transform during this battle, but it has a significant downside, which is that you only get 5 BP of each of the opponent's moves. And that's not nearly going to be enough to beat Brock's Rocks. So I fight with Pound until I run out of PP. Eventually, I do transform into the Onix, and things come down to a bite-off. We bide our time at each other, slowly chipping each other down, but Mew runs out of PP. We come super close to winning when we knock out the Onix, but we also knock ourselves out with Struggle Recoil, and oh boy. While that was a transformative experience, we can't win if we're both knocked out simultaneously. Or as I like to call it, mutually assured destruction. After several more attempts, each of which takes 15 friggin' forevers, we get the luck we need to knock out the Onix with Struggle and manage to hang on with just enough health left over to win. But we win mostly thanks to Brock's Onix repeatedly using Screech to lower our defense, but then not using any tackles. So, that's cool. But I have noticed that occasionally Brock's AI will do this with Onix for whatever reason. But to be fair, those instances are Mew and far between. After traversing Mount Mune, it's now time to take on the rival Bubs just north of Nugget Bridge. This is where the game really starts to open up, because as you defeat Brock, you gain access to several TMs, which we can teach all of them to Mew if we want. To start, I add Water Gun and Mega Punch to Mew's moveset. Mega Punch is a super strong normal move, and Water Gun does major damage to the rock types that would resist Mega Punch, so not a bad combo. The only problem with Mega Punch is that it's not perfectly accurate, and it kinda misses a lot. You'll also notice that we critical hit fairly frequently, and that's because critical hit probability is proportional to base speed in this game, and Mew's base speed is pretty high. In layman's terms, we move super fast, like a kid all jacked up on soda. Or as I like to call it, Mountain Mew? After defeating the rival Bubs, it's time to take on the water-type leader Misty at the Cerulean City Gym. I'm not too worried about this battle though, because Mew has pretty good special and plenty of stats to boot. After punching and pounding Misty's starfish, she sends out her Starmie, which proceeds to suds us up with bubbles. We managed to win this battle on the very first try, however, Mew did take a lot of damage and is now soaking wet. Hey, you might want to try drying off before you go outside there, pal. Otherwise, you'll catch a cold. And then you gotta go to the store and buy Mucinex. With Misty out of the picture, we head down to Vermilion City and hop aboard the SS Anne to take on the rival Bubs. Once again, we have a major change-up with the moveset. In Cerulean City, we acquired the TMs for Bubble Beam from Misty and Dig from some guy who lives in a hole in the wall. Those replaced Water Gun and Pound respectively. And then, on the SS Anne, we grabbed the TM for Body Slam, which is just a superior version of Mega Punch in every aspect. More powerful, more accurate, plus it's got a chance to paralyze. And some will know that Dig is actually stronger than Body Slam outside of type effectiveness, but I mostly use Body Slam here instead because it's much faster than waiting 2 turns to hit every single time. Heck, we're Body Slamming so much, this was less of a battle and more like Mucha Libre. While we're in town, I decide to take on Lieutenant Surge at the Vermilion City Gym. Did you know that you can delay this battle until as late as your 7th gym badge? I should know, because as a child, I couldn't figure out why the Vermilion City Gym door wouldn't open, even though I had quote-unquote all the gym badges. I also apparently never used Fly as a kid, because that's all that Surge's badge prevents you from doing. What a wild time that was. Huh. Anyways, we won. Aw, poor Surge, he looks so serious too. And I can't believe he actually thought he stood a chance. Oh yeah, Lieutenant Surge? Mew in what army? After crawling through the darkened rock tunnel, I arrive in Lavender Town to take on the rival Bubs in the Pokemon Tower. Now I know what you might be thinking. You taught the TM for Thunderbolt to Mew and blah blah blah, whatever. No, that's not what I did. It's not what I did. Instead, Mew learned Metronome as part of its level up moveset. So I replaced Transform and decided to have a little fun. We're pulling all kinds of crazy moves out of our arsenal. Toxic, Absorb, Water Gun, heckin' Bone Club. Now, was this the most efficient way to win the battle? Absolutely not. But we're level 33, and if we went whole hog with the moveset, then we would just be decimating every single trainer with Psychic, and I just don't think that would be very amusing. We've beaten Bubs, and now it's time to take on the Grass-type gym leader in Celadon City. And once again, I could have made my way to Saffron City, picked up the TM for Psychic from Mr. Psychic, a very inspired name choice, and absolutely decimated Erica's team. Where's the fun in that, though? Instead, I decided to knock out Victory Bell with Body Slam because, well, I still don't want to deal with Sleep Powder shenanigans, and then we roam with the Gnome. Metronome actually shows us a pretty fun interaction, too. We call Bide right before getting locked into Bind, yet despite taking a bunch of Bind damage, Bide only calculates its damage based off of one of those individual Bind hits. That's weird. Mew curls up into a little ball right before Metronome calls Fire Punch, which cooks the spaghetti monster faster than Zoodles in an air fryer. Y'all ever have Zoodles before? It's noodles made from zucchini, Zoodles. It might not taste as good as actual spaghetti, but they have way more nutritional value. After beating Erica, I head to the game corner to take on Giovanni in the Team Rocket hideout. This battle is actually kind of crazy. Mew starts things off by pulling Hyper Beam with Metronome, which does surprisingly a lot to Onyx considering its defense stat. Then the rest of the battle, I swear, Mew commits to only pulling normal type slippy slappy moves with Metronome until right at the very end when we get Waterfall. It's the signature move of Goldeen and Seeking, but nobody knows that because nobody actually used those terrible Pokemon, so I guess those signature moves were forged. Personally, I remember being introduced as an HM in Gold and Silver, so this is Muse to me. Now it's time to take on Koga at the Fuchsia City Gym. I decide I don't want to mess around with coughing and have our accuracy lowered with Smokescreen, so I just knock that sucker out right away. We level up, and I do decide to teach Psychic in place of Bubble Beam. I know I've been messing around most of the run, but I mean, come on, I'm not crazy, y'all. And I know Muck can minimize to boost evasion, but I decide to be cheeky and go for Metronome anyways. I walk face first into my own hubris as Metronome calls self-destruct. And of course, we lose the battle. I can't believe that. And of all times against Koga too. That's his whole shtick. But turns out, we might be the perfect pair. Or as I like to call it, Mew of a kind. Alright, let's try this again. And this time around, we're not going to use Metronome. I mean, I'm still not playing optimally when I use a bunch of digs instead of spamming Psychic for the 1-hit KO, but I am simply incorrigible. Plus, I want to give Koga the chance to do what he always does at the end by using Self-Destruct while Mew is underground. I mean, it doesn't end up happening this time, but, I mean, come on. What are you gonna do? Go see Gallagher and not expect him to smash a watermelon? Is that a dated reference? Am I dated? Okay, Mewmer. After snuffing Koga's stuff, I head to Saffron City for yet another rival battle with Bubs, this time in the Silph Company building. His lead, Pidgeot, is always very annoying, so I make sure to take it out with our stronger attacks before it can lower our accuracy with Sand Attack. After that, Growlithe comes out, and, well, it's a pretty terrible Pokemon, so I just Metronome for the lulz. We're only getting weak attacks like Acid and Fury Swipes, but at least we heal a little with Soft Boiled, so that's pretty neat. I try the same shenanigans with Execute, but then it hits us with a Leech Seed, which will drain our health every turn, so okay, I no longer have time to fiddle and fart around. Let's start picking up the pace with Body Slams. Alakazam doesn't fall in one hit though, and you can see the Leech Seeds really start to rack up. Body Slam does a decent chunk to Blastoise, but then it raises its defense with Withdraw. Alright, time to finish it off with a Psychic, since that's special. Just like me. Well, at least that's what my mommy always told me. And also those bullies on the school bus. Although, when they said special, I don't think they meant it in the same way. Huh. That's okay. Childhood trauma be damned. Let's just put it behind us. After all, it's all in the rear Mew mirror. Bubs is beat, and now we meet up with Giovanni, and unto his Pokemon, we shall yeet. I didn't heal up between battles, so I only have a few Metronomes left. Fortuitously enough, though, we get a Swords Dance, which doubles our attack. Alright, I may be out of Metronomes, but at least I get to slam my tiny feline physique onto Giovanni's Pokemon. Pause. It does surprisingly good damage, even to the resisted Rhyhorn. And I know this battle would have been much easier and much faster had I simply used Psychic, but I'm not a speedrunner, nor am I a smart man. If anything, I'm demusional. At this point, the next place I have to go is right next door to take on Sabrina, the Psychic Gym Leader. Fighting Sabrina with only Metronome is probably a terrible idea. Oh well, here it goes. Kadabra, I smack with a Body Slam, but once I see Mr. Mime, it's Metronome time. After calling Leer to lower defense, Metronome calls Rage. And for those who don't know, Rage is normally a terrible move of only 20 base power, which forces you to only use Rage until the user faints or the battle ends, which usually is quickly because the user faints because Rage is terrible. The only upside is that every time you get hit, your Rage builds and the move raises your attack by one stage. Well, here's the nuttiest set of circumstances ever, because a weak multi-hit move like Double Slap doesn't boost Rage once per turn, but rather once for each individual slap. By the time we get past the Mr. Mime, Rage is actually strong enough to 2-hit KO Venomoth and Alakazam. And that's pretty nifty. And honestly, what are the chances? What a rare occurrence. Kinda like seeing a Municorn. Now there's nothing left to do but surf down to Cinnabar Island to take on the Fire-type Gym Leader Blaine so we can get the Volcano Badge to boost our special. Well, I guess it only really matters some of the time, because we're mostly relying on Metronome, and that only sometimes calls special moves. Sometimes it calls Fissure, which misses, and other times it calls Bubble Beam to 1-hit KO like a Fissure should, but doesn't because it misses. MEW is also getting a bunch of critical hits this battle, which is cool, I guess. Using Metronome against a Rapidash, which can lock us in with Fire Spin, is probably not a great idea, but I'm gonna do it anyways. Oh, and I get rewarded for my inanity with a super effective Rock Slide. Love that. Arcanine comes out and we both heal our Pokemon, even though the dog hadn't taken any damage yet, so that's smart. Fire Blast hits us for a lot of damage, and I should probably cut the crap and get serious, but I don't. Instead, our Metronome runs out just as we get a Growth to raise our special, which is not going to help much with Dig outside of a badge boost to attack, but even so, Arcanine survives the Dig, but then we survive a Fire Blast only because of the special boost that we gained from Growth. Wow, this game is so weird. Hey, turns out sometimes foolishness is true wisdom, and that, I dare say, is a universal truth. Now it's time for the final showdown with Giovanni for our final badge. This battle is exactly why I didn't want to just slap Swords Dance on MEW and then spam Earthquake and Body Slam. That would have been ideal and, smart, but that's not what you're all here for. Y'all want to see Metronome call Lovely Kiss to put a Rhyhorn to sleep, only for another Metronome to call Dream Eater to actually connect for the knockout. And seriously, what are the chances? This run has been so much fun using MEW, way more fun than it would be if I were doing this optimally, because I genuinely have no idea what moves we're going to be using half the time. And if I truly wanted to suffer, I could do a true Metronome only run, with a much weaker Pokemon of course. But for now, it's a mute point. Before we can take on the Elite Four, we have to battle the rival Bubs one more time. The Pidgeot no longer has Sand Attack, so I finally feel confident enough to troll it with Metronome. Kinda comes back to bite me in the butt though, because we lose over half of our health in the process. We whiff a Leech Seed against the Rhyhorn that would have actually been really nice to heal back up, and then a Flamethrower does a bunch. Things get weird though when Metronome calls the move Mimic, which copies an opponent's move. I know from previous experience that Mimic can cause some pretty weird glitches, so I'm just praying that nothing bad happens and we don't break anything here. In the spirit of continuing to troll, I copy Horn Drill, and I use it to knock out the Rhyhorn with the last of our two Beepy. I'm low on health, so I guess it's time to actually kick things up a notch, but disaster strikes when Execute lands a Leech Seed. And we've got too little health, and therefore too little time to finish the battle before we get sucked to death. I guess I probably shouldn't have been messing around like that, but I didn't think that it still had Leech Seed for some reason. Guess I got my wires crossed, or as I like to call it, a communication breakdown. After a few more tries, I made it back to the Alakazam, but we're paralyzed from Stun Spore. Hey, at least it's better than Leech Seed. Body Slam makes quick work of the Alakazam, and for the Blastoise, I use Psychic. It's our strongest move, it's a 2-hit KO, plus I know Blastoise likes to raise its defense with Withdrawal. The Tubby Toidle gets taken down just as it's taking a turn to lower its head for a Skull Bash. Huh, pretty foolish move to leave yourself exposed like that. Bubs must have forgotten to protect your neck, which is why you should always listen to the Mewtang clan. Alright, it's time to take on the Elite Four, the best trainers in the game, a real Mew's Who. But first, here are the stats in Mew's. Mew's level 49, and our stats are great. Alright, cool. We're at the point in the run now where I think Metronome just isn't going to cut it. So I finally pull the trigger and teach Mew Swords Dance and Earthquake. But I also got rid of Body Slam for payday. Bet you didn't see that coming, huh? Why would we want a super strong move that can also paralyze, when instead we can have one that's half as strong and gives chump change that we don't even need at this point anyways? Think about that. This might be a bad idea, because after all, the rest of the game until now was all sunshine and daisies, but the Elite Four is where things get serious. I guess we'll have to see how things fare now that we're past the honeymoon and into the newlywed phase. First up is Lorelei with a team of Ice-type Pokemon. She's got some super bulky Pokemon, so it'd be a real shame if we only fought her with one of the weakest moves in the game. Lorelei sends out her Dugong with its big fat dumpy, and so we start boosting our attack with Swords Dance. Because we're modifying our attack stat, the badge boosts for the rest of our stats are reapplied as well, so we take less damage overall. This even happens when Dugong lowers our attack stat with Growl, and plus her growling means we get to use even more Swords Dances for more boosts. We've got super high attack, but this strategy does have one flaw. Mew has a high base speed, meaning we're more likely to land critical hits, and critical hits ignore all of our stat boosts. Because of the numerous critical hits that we land, we make it past the Cloyster with only 7 HP left, 11 after leveling up. So, not exactly off to a great start. Slowbro comes out, and I know there's no time to mess around, so we start to bring the earthquakes. Slowbro goes down in one hit, the Jinx goes down in one hit, and the Lapras goes down in one hit. I was kind of expecting something bad to happen. Alright, now for the real kicker. How much extra money did we make from Payday? Alright, it's gonna be good, it's gonna be good. 784 Pokedollars, which is like, what's that like? $3? In this economy? That's not even enough to buy a bran muffin. What a complete waste of time that was. It makes absolutely no economic sense. Kind of like having a job that's super far away. Yeah, it might pay well, but it doesn't matter if you're hemorrhaging gas money on the commute. With Lorelei defeated, it's time to take on Bruno. Alright, this time around, we're not going to get goofed on by critical hits, right? That would be annoying. Onix comes out and quickly locks itself into Rage, so we're easily able to set up Swords Dances. I take it out with Earthquake instead of Payday, because I don't necessarily want to boost Rage counters while Bruno spams X-Defense. Hitmonchan comes out, and it is the benefactor of another critical hit. I thought we talked about this game. And then Thunder Punch gets the 10% paralysis. Yay! Okay, Hitmonlee goes down to a single Payday. Well, big surprise there. And Onix falls to an Earthquake. Alright. Machamp comes out and takes very little from our Paydays, even without the critical hits. And we even get fully paralyzed to boot. But, sadly for Bruno, there's nothing he can really do to take down this telekinetic kitten. Nice try, Muchacho! Now it's time for the Elite Four member Agatha, the geriatric ghost trainer. This battle is always a fun time, what with all the shenanigans she likes to pull, and there's not much leeway for me to even mess around here, since when it comes to normal type moves like Payday, her ghost types are immune. So we're just gonna set up 3 Swords Dances and see how it goes. Okay, well, we take a Nightshade and get confused, so that's fun. Thankfully though, we hit the Earthquake and Gengar goes down. Golbat comes out though. We hit ourselves in Confusion, which does a ton thanks to our attack being vastly higher than our defense, and then Golbat removes all of our extra stat boost with its Haze. Alright, back to square one. I'm just gonna blast this bat brain bozo with Psychic real quick, okay, and Haunter comes out and confuses us. But fortunately, we break out of confusion quickly and manage to get our Swords Dance boosts all back. Oh yeah. So finally, after all that effort, we get to knock out the Arbok with 2 Paydays and that's it. Yep, that's right, that's what all that trouble was for, because, truth be told, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. We could have just Earthquaked the entire time. But here I am. I must be a glutton for punishment. Or maybe I'm crazy. You know, like that movie? One Mew over the cuckoo's nest? Next up is the final Elite Four member, Lance the Dragon Master. If my past experience tells me anything, I already know this one is gonna be a tough time. Okay. Gyarados is his lead, and a Hyper Beam does a little bit, but then it lowers our defense with Leer, and then hits us with a much stronger Hyper Beam that does a lot of bit. We're very low on health going into the Dragonair, so I start going for Earthquakes. Aerodactyl is immune to Earthquake and resists Payday, so I lob a Psychic at it, but surprisingly it manages to survive. That's including the extra special badge boosts that we got from using Swords Dance too. Takedown, well, takes us down, and we've lost. Great. And that's so rude too. Beaten by a fossil when Lance shouldn't even be allowed to own one in the first place. Pretty sure that's against the law. After all, It belongs in a museum. On the second merry-go-round, things go basically same, but slightly different. And this time, Gyarados lands an extra Leer, which means one extra badge boost than before. So this time around, after clearing out the Dragonair, instead of the Aerodactyl surviving Psychic on a sliver of health, it's a clean 1-hit KO. We do level up before the Dragonite though, which resets all of our additional badge boosts, but does not reset the Swords Dance attack boosts. However, it also doesn't reset the Leer defense drops, so this is not enough to win the battle. Great. I've got to do this battle again? Again, man? Jeez. Lance has got me going in circles like a mula hoop. Alright, you know what we've got to do to win here. No. We're not going to teach Ice Beam or Blizzard. That would be silly, you silly goose. Goose, that's silly. We're just going to use a few rare candies so that we, 1, don't level up during the battle to lose our badge boost, and 2, make our damage ranges more likely to pick up knockouts in 1 less hit. I also switched things up by knocking out the Gyarados quickly to avoid getting our defense lowered with Leer. Leer was helpful for the extra badge boost before, but now with our higher level, we don't need it. And this pays dividends when we make it to the Dragonite and its attacks are doing way less damage. We finally win the battle, and it feels so good to have finally solved the problem. Kind of like when you finally figure out how to do a Rubik's Cube. Alright everyone, it's time. Now we take on the champion, our rival Bubs. This is the last battle, and the game forces the battle animations to be on for this one, so we actually get to see the swords dance, well, dancing around. It's pretty cool stuff. Wait, how does a sword dance? Is it like a rumba? Pidgeot lands a Sky Attack, whose higher critical hit chance thankfully doesn't come to fruition, and we get to the Alakazam with maximized attack and plenty of health. It goes down in a single payday, more like Slay Day, and then out comes the Rhydon. Surprisingly, it manages to survive a badge-boosted Psychic on just a sliver, and so we finish it off with a payday, so more money, yay. From there, we continue to throw coins at all of Bubs' Pokemon until the end of the battle. That's right, we're coughing up coins, we're slinging cents, we're chucking cheddar, we're bombarding with bread. Is that enough examples? I sure hope so, because I just ran out of ammunition. And with that, the challenge is over. Listen, if you came to this video expecting a speedrun, then I'm glad to have disappointed you. I've been doing these videos for a long time, and after a while, you can start to get burnt out, and then it's really important to find ways to make it fun again. Using an objectively great Pokemon in a purposefully asinine way is so my style, and I'm sure the real ones out there get exactly where I'm coming from. Also, hopefully you weren't overwhelmed by the amount of Mew puns. It's just jokes here, everyone, so no need to get stressed out. After all, it's important to maintain a good sense of humor. As always, I want to thank you all for making it to the end of this video. These videos are a lot of fun, but also a lot of work, so I really do appreciate it. There's a playlist on my channel where you can check out the rest of my Pokemon Challenge videos as well. And if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you'll know right away the next time one of these episodes is uploaded. And if you want access to a bunch of my past challenge videos ad-free, consider becoming a member or by joining on Patreon. And let me know in the comments what are the Pokemon you want to see, and I might do it. Next time, and this is a big one, I'm going to try to beat Pokemon Red using only one Ditto. Yikes! Alright, until then,